Okay, here we go. Ready. Action.
Okay, so there's this whole thing when you bring up church hurt on social media where the validity of the term is at question here. Like a lot of people think it's not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The argument is it's not church hurt, it's people hurt
People hurt
people.
people.
Churches don't hurt people, people hurt people. It's kind of like, the whole
Gun.
guns don't kill people, people
People kill
kill
people.
people. So what do you say to that? Is it valid? I mean, sure, I think it's valid. We think it's valid, but that's why we're talking about it. But people don't think it's valid.
For shits and giggles, y'all can peep that out. I took it upon myself to do a little reconnaissance through Google. I simply typed in church hurt, and there were pages upon pages of articles and help books and help pages specifically dedicated for helping people who may have experienced some form of psychological or emotional trauma under the watch of a shepherd. I mean, out the gate, 7 steps to overcoming church
Wow.
hurt. Lifeway.com, how to heal from church hurt, helping overcoming church hurt, damaged by the church, uh, why we get hurt and hurt others, what do we do with church hurt, what exactly does it mean to have church hurt, how to overcome church hurt.
Yeah.
I think most of these articles center around recovering from it.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, which for me is an indicator that we don't have a lot of resources that help us get past these things, because there's a big population of us that don't think it's real. So you have these people with a very specific wound, and there have been no programs or things set in place that have been placed in plain sight for people to go to when they've experienced it.
Yeah.
Which is why most of them end up leaving and never coming back.
There has been a
Carrying
mass exodus. And I think part of the reason why a lot of people have left is because the church doesn't really want to take responsibility for this hurt that has been caused. And when you don't want to take responsibility, you don't want to rectify that. So no one, I'm not going to say no one, because it's a whole, nothing is ever everyone. I just want to say that nothing is ever every church, but a lot of churches, in my experience, most of them that I have been to, I find that they don't want to rectify those things. They want to keep the position of, I was right in whatever I did and however I did it, and it was prophetic or it was led or whatever. And you being hurt is you being too sensitive, or oh, this is a popular one. You're hurt by the church because you don't like correction. It's not that somebody actually hurt you. It's because you don't like to be corrected.
And you have a
And
rebellious
I've never
spirit.
you have a rebellious spirit, and I've never, like, everybody know I got a ton of mouth, like boop 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 boop. It's always going on. I'm saying what I gotta say. It's coming out. I'm gonna say it, and so I've been like that, for a long time. And churches have experienced me in that way. And so I gladly take a seat, and I don't usually care, as much as I care about getting my point across, because usually when I do go there or feel like I have to say something, it's usually in defense of someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have tough skin to a certain point where you can kind of
You can
get it
try
off on me,
Come on,
and I'm
yeah.
just like, I've already figured you out as to why you even have to do that. I've already excused you. I'm like, you know what? You used to get beat. Like, I have a whole
It's like
system. I will excuse you. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you said this and treat me this way because of boop, 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 boop. Got it. I'll take that. But when it's someone else that isn't as, flippant as I am, then I'm like, hold up, because she don't even roll like that and she's sweet. So you coming at her. So let me just come on and say what this really is. And so this whole you don't like correction thing, it's not valid for everyone. And as a matter of fact, it's probably a very small percentage of people who tote the church hurt just because they didn't want to be corrected. Especially when you're raised in this way of, you know, this whole thing or this notion that when you do something wrong, you get a whipping, or you have this situation where you get beat if you do something wrong. We're used to that. Yeah. So you sitting me down or you doing this and you correcting me, most people were used to that. So it's okay. So this whole you just don't like correction is usually not true. Yeah. I don't like you abusing me though. Like in the name of correction. And I also don't like that it's just been packaged that way so that leadership in the church doesn't have to be wrong. They don't have to ever come to the table and say, you know what? I apologize because I didn't handle that correctly. And now that I see that hurt you, it hurts me that I've hurt you, because that's love stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like the love stuff is not really seen in the system in which, when it comes to like pastor and lay member, or pastor and worship leader, or whatever this tier of things that happen, the pastor, the elder, the minister, all of these little hierarchy system of levels, which is also, it is just a cesspool. Yeah. When it comes to how people can operate with one another. I'm already coming into church predisposed to hurt because I'm coming in less than everybody already. If I come here and I don't know, or I haven't been given a title, or I haven't been ordained in some way, I'm already less than everybody else that is. Yeah. So what is that like? Like, what does that do? We try not to do that even with children, so that they don't have issues growing up and they don't have these hang-ups. But we're doing it in church on purpose. And we want you to know, too, like, this is the pastor, kiss his ring. And everybody is doing that. Some people are actually kissing rings.
Well, it's because we're derivative from a system that's going on before us. So we are protesters from this Catholicism, right? And I'm specifically, forgive me if you're Muslim, I'm sure y'all have reformations, and I'm sure you have issues. I got to talk about the life I've lived and the people group that I've been a part of. Yes, we're kissing rings because we are Protestant protesters of the Catholic oppression, and we are not. We're the slaves of the Protestants. We're the slaves of those guys. Right. And so what we've done is we've created our own. We couldn't be a part of your church, so created our own church and created our own tier system so that we could feel the way y'all feel. I tell you, I give you a description of how I've experienced that. I've worked at a few multicultural churches with pastors, white and black, who've been my friends. And in one church, I had access to the church anytime I wanted to. Anytime I wanted to be there, have meetings there, have events there. $7 million facility. So it's not a small space. It's what it is. A black worship leader from another church needed to use a facility because the deacons of his church would not let him or grant him access to said church. So he reached out to one of my people. It wasn't even directly to me, who was a part of this multicultural organization, and they had rehearsal in my church. I later realized that black people, when you don't understand how the master operates his organization, your perception of power leads you to policies that don't make sense. And therein lies. So instead of being a part of your space, I'll build my space. And no, you can't touch it. Only one person got a key. Only one person got access, because we want to make sure nobody comes in. Not with a Jezebel spirit. We want to make sure we protect the house of God. And because we don't really know we don't know the verses to Amazing Grace. We don't know the verses. We sing the choruses over and over again, which we've made damn amazing.
Right.
Because there's a blessing in repetitive worship. You could sing something, and I know a lot of my white brothers and sisters are like, why you keep singing that? Because it feels better every time I sing it. And they don't get it. But we did that originally because we didn't have the intelligence. No, take that back. We didn't have the literacy to read, to understand the verses that were never written for us.
Right.
But we didn't know them. So what we did with the choruses, we made an experience out of them, which is part of our greatness. My point in saying, these are some of the derivatives of said hierarchy systems that church hurt is built off of. And I want to talk about what it looks like when a church says I'm sorry, and what it looks like when a person says I'm sorry, because I think that's super important.
Yeah, I think when I haven't seen it done.
No, I've never experienced a church
I've never
saying
experienced
I'm sorry.
a sorry. Now I've experienced other pastors knowing me, knowing my story of different experiences, and saying sorry for what I experienced and saying, you know what, that was not cool. That's not what we do here. We hurt you in another kind of way, but we don't hurt you that. Nah, real spill. Ain't nobody said that. But I mean, I've experienced that, but I haven't experienced, like a situation where pastors kind of come together and like we love conferences. We love having conferences, boy. I mean, we want to talk about this and that. We want a prophetic conference, but it's crazy because ain't nobody heard from the Lord that people need to be healed from how we have treated each other in church. You know my personal business. The Lord gave you a word about my life and my family and what I do in my personal time, but never talk to you about what needs to happen to reconcile a person back, to the church. But I got to be honest, it's not a place that I send people to that much anymore. And if I do send people, because I believe that church at its core is a good thing for socially. Like, people need community.
Yeah.
And as long as it's healthy, and it's not going to be perfect, but healthy.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, for instance, there was a time where I felt like work was safer than church. Work was more peaceful than church for me. And some of the time, a lot of people I talk to, like friends of mine, don't quite understand what I'm saying because they haven't really worked for church too, like worked in church. So there's levels to this.
Yeah.
Like, because I've been exposed to a lot. So when we talk about church hurt, we're not only talking about, oh, this happened to me. Church hurt is what I've seen.
Happened to others as a leader.
What I've seen happen to others. How I see you operate behind closed doors, how you work in that back office, what you say, how you talk about people.
Absolutely. People come to you in confidence, for advice, for sympathy, for compassion, for understanding, which otherwise they've been deprived of for most of their life, for advocacy. And, you give them the song and dance, God's bottling your tears, and who has that kind of time? And then when it's all said and done, when you and your ministers or your guest speaker go to Applebee's or Chili's after service, haphazardly, I wish there was a HIPAA law for church.
Oh, that would be nice.
Wow.
Because on multiple occasions, because we pose ourselves as hospitals and bakeries that we only offer crumbs, and we're notorious for malpractice. and there's no little to no accountability. But to stay on track, I've seen multiple churches, white and black, big and small, where pastors have completely projected the image of, a shepherd with careful hands.
Yeah.
And then after service, let me tell you what this sorry such and such and such done did.
Yeah.
His wife and such, telling very haphazardly sharing sensitive information
Yeah.
Yeah.
that people wouldn't tell their loved ones about.
Yeah.
And not only are you sharing it with people who have no emotional or social stock with the subjects of your story, you laugh and you mock. You mockingly reenact the moments. It's like the most egregious display of uncovering.
And your defense is pastors are human too. That's number one defense, which isn't fair. Isn't fair. But then number two defense is this. Man, should I say this?
Go ahead and say it.
We're here now.
The reason why I love the HIPAA law is when love doesn't exist, rules are necessary. It's a hard case. It's a hard pill to swallow. But the evidence says when love doesn't exist, rules are necessary. I shouldn't need a rule to tell you to not share my business, but my business is being shared. I shouldn't need a rule to tell you to not degrade my family on the basis of spirituality, but there's my family at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
So that's why I loved it, and we'll pause.
We got to pause there.